Good day and welcome back to another Dbz Dokkan battle video. So in this video we are going to take a look at the free-to-play unit Yamu and Spopovich. We are going to take a look at the unit as a rainbow unit, so that's going to be something pretty interesting to see. Obviously they recently got their EZA from the Majin Buu Saga Extreme Z area alongside the Int Gohan team. And so, yeah, they are pretty decent. They are a World Tournament 77% lead, which is, somewhat interesting. I mean, it's okay. It's not really a category that has a lot of leaders, so this does kind of help it out. And so that's all perfectly fine. Then, of course, they have the effect on their super attack. So that's pretty straightforward. They recover 7% health after they fire off their super attack, and of course they lower the attack and defense of the enemy unit. So it's very helpful skill, super helpful in the early stages of long form content, super helpful in long form content by having them restore some of your health, and of course very good in SBR and ESBR. Then their passive is attack and defense 90%, ki +2 plus an additional attack of 20% with each super attack performed, plus an additional defense of 20% with each attack received. They disable enemies' guard when attacking superclass enemies. So disabling of guard basically means that all other units will do neutral type damage, even if that unit has type disadvantage. So it can be somewhat useful, but it's a little bit of a niche skill that's not really super useful unless used in specific situations. In terms of build, I think a split between additional and crit is more than acceptable on these guys, preferably probably more additional to try and stack that attack as high as you can. In terms of links, they have Brutal Beatdown, Evil Autocrats, which is a very terrible link, Demonic Power, which is a good link but very difficult to use, Berserker, which is a good link but not for them, and then Tough as Nails, which is a decent link. And then of course they have, so I don't know if you can tell obviously from the way I'm reacting, their link set, they have Coward as well. Their link set's not necessarily the greatest link set. Overall it's okay, but it just doesn't really give much inspiration. Shattering the Limit is their major key link, and because of this they kind of lack a lot of synergy. They don't link very well with any unit in particular. Shattering the Limit gives them the ability to link with some of the better Earthling cards, almost say human cards, the better Earthling cards on the Earthlings category, but realistically it's not that great. It basically just lets them link with Earthlings and Majin Buu Saga units. Speaking of which, Earthlings, the World Tournament and the Majin Buu Saga are going to be their best teams. Corroded Body and Mind, there could be a decent floater on, especially for things like the, Goku event, the LGEGT, where they can act as some kind of, pseudo floater healer. But really, that's about it. We're going to try them on the Earthlings team first, and we're going to take a look at how they perform here. Obviously, they don't really have a spectacular linking partner. We're not really looking at someone who's going to share 5 or 6 links with them, but we do have the Tech General Tao. He does share a massive 3 links with them, which is pretty much as good as it gets. But as you can see, you can get Shattering the Limit from a decent amount of Earthlings units, and that's pretty much, the best we can do overall in terms of his link set. But at least on the Earthlings category, those units do share those amounts. Because of that, he can at least give Ki to Krillin, starting out with 900 or so thousand in attack, and obviously our defense was not too high either, which isn't great, but we do manage to get the first couple stacks rolling in. Ideally you want them to get hit as much as possible in the very beginning. In terms of things like SBR and ESBR, you're going to want to use an item. Make sure that they get hit as much as possible, either after they super to lower the enemy's attack. Otherwise, if they hit before they super, they're not going to have their attack lowered, which means they're going to do more damage, which is a bit of a problem for them. That's why sometimes having them as a pseudo floater is better than having them as a main rotation unit. Not only can they heal, but they can either A, attack the units after they've had their attacks and defense lowered, which will help when they're taking hits and reduce the amount of damage they receive, or they can, not take so many hits just in general. So that's really one of the appeals of having them as a floater on their category, which I think is where they belong. They are a floating kind of unit, a unit with poor links, but that provides a bit of utility in terms of his super attack effects. Definitely belongs as a floater rather than anything else on these teams. But yeah, we'll definitely see them improve. They're a unit that rapidly improves. The more that they attack, the more hits they take. They do improve quite a bit. Obviously, their starting point is relatively low in comparison to someone like, the Int-grade Sandman. So his base stats were his base passive was 158%. So when you take 158% and you compare it to 90%, obviously that means he's going to start off at a way higher base value. So it's not really something we can change. We do have 3 links active now, so we are going to see a bit of a better performance, 71k now, so they can start ramping up a little bit, getting a bit better. But overall, realistically, they are a unit that is definitely designed for long form events. As you can see, defense is going up, attacks going up, so up to 1.2, and it'll steadily climb if we get additionals or anything. They heal 7% regardless, so obviously, there's no need to worry about how much attack damage they do. They're not like Pan, who heals 30% of damage dealt. They just heal 7% of your total HP. So if your total HP is 100k, they'll heal 7,000. So it's a nice little heal. It's not going to be a lot. The nice thing about it is obviously if they stack it twice, it's 14%, which is a nice little buffer. If you are in a long event, grabbing that 7% on a tankier rotation or something where you won't lose that much health can really help you out, especially with the same orbs and everything. So it's a nice little buffer to just some of the utility you can have in these longer events. Obviously, we're getting a good look at the Earthlings team. It is progressing. It is getting better slowly over time. We have the LR Master Roshi now, who's definitely a very good unit for that team. He pairs okayish with the Krillin as well. And Krillin's just a really good, still really steady Prime Battle Easy A, solid stats, solid abilities, ability to stack his defense. Then of course we end up with the Tien, who's a great addition from the Majin Buu saga. So overall we just got some really good additions going on here. The number one thing just to keep in mind is that this Yamu and Spopovich is clearly designed for the challenge in the IDBH. So 120,000 or so defense, so you can see now it's really starting to ramp up. 107,000 defense. So you can see it's really starting to ramp up quite a bit. These guys are clearly designed to help out in the IDBH challenge for the Earthlings category. So that's definitely something that they are designed for. I did use them in my original completion of the event, but they are definitely going to be a great help with their Easy A. And now they're going to have stacked their defense enough times. That's going to definitely be it. So they'd be at a very high point right now. This General Tao card is somewhat decent. I know he's not looking too great. I haven't invested SA in him or anything. I could max him out and Rambo him, which I might do depending, but he is very similar to them. He requires getting hit to activate his full passive, but he can get to a decent point now that he's got a decent linking partner, and 3 links is okay. Definitely makes people who have him maybe more warrant the investment of orbs, especially for something like that IDBH stage. He's just a lot more viable in there now. He doesn't have key problems, he has a linking partner, so overall a pretty solid addition right there. Like I said, this team is doing pretty well. It's gotten a lot better over time. The Yamu and Spopovich definitely help it out. And fighting superclass enemies, they are deactivating the guard. I haven't noticed it too much. Like I said, it's not something you're going to strictly notice unless you are distinctly running like a mono type team. Let's say you're running like a full AGL team, the enemy you're fighting is tech. If they hit them, you'll notice the units afterwards will do a substantial amount more damage. So that is something that you'll notice there, but it's not something we can actively really see that well using Dokkan events. Maybe if we took a mono team into something that wasn't SBR or anything, we might see it, but beyond that, it's not really something we're going to see. too much at all. But yeah, overall I think they did pretty well. Obviously we didn't get them to their full stacked potential. We'll do that in the next event. But we did see a good glimpse of what they can do. We saw how they scale, we saw how quickly they scale, we saw the kind of changes between each attack. So still a good indication, and nice to see that they at least work on another team rather than just being run on Majin Buu Saga or Terrifying Conquerors or something. So yeah, pretty decent so far. And we'll take a look at them in the Bojack event. Obviously, as you guys know, the Bojack event basically doesn't end if you keep attacking Bojack. He has 99% damage reduction, so basically you cannot skip. Well, you can skip it. I mean, you kill the other 3 guys. But basically, if you keep attacking him, there's no way that you're really going to clear the event. So I'm going to use this to try and get us a little bit more turns with Yamu and Spopovich. Basically just a slightly better idea of how, Yamu and Spopovich do once they're able to stack up, or at least be able to see their maxed out defense, because we didn't really get to see it last time, so it was kind of a little bit of a letdown, even though they hit that point. So here we've got a decent amount of defense, 90k, but remember they do have a 20% support from the Hercule and Buu and a 50% support from the Kid Buu. So they are kind of basically getting a massive 70% extra support, which is why they've jumped up so much from the 60k. But that's fine, that gives them the starting tanking ability. Obviously running Kid Buu and Hercule alongside them every rotation is not essentially viable, but like I say, it's more than fine at this point. Just basically to give them a bit of a start here. They'll be attacked by Zangya, and she unfortunately lowers attack, so we're not going to see their true attack stat for a little bit, but we're going to see them stack up some defense, and of course they get attacked by both units with a super attack, so we get to see them tank super attacks to build up their defense, which gives a beautiful image of the unit. But they tanked alright. Obviously Dokkan events don't naturally hit the hardest, so we usually just come in them to see some raw numbers. There's nothing really more you can ascertain from a Dokkan event. It's not like you can get an idea on what kind of events they're going to help you in, but there's no real way to see whether they can tank Int Goku MUI or tank something like Full Power SS4 Goku from the LGEGT event or whatever, because you can't really see them do that. Well, you can see them do that, but I mean, you can only do that by doing the event. So it just lets us see some raw numbers, and based on those raw numbers, we can kind of tell how well they would do. Basically is what we do. So we're going to link them up permanently with the Majin Buu and Babidi. They share 2 links, it's not the best. They had 134,000, 35,000 defense. Obviously they still have the 50% support, but you can see them, starting to rack up that defense quite nicely. They'll take a couple more hits here, and then we should be close to being maxed out, which is what we want. 1.6 million as well. Obviously 50% support is still quite a big factor here. But we're starting to get a good idea. I think that'll max out their defense, or will be pretty close to maxing out their defense. Getting a pretty good idea of the kind of numbers they can put out. Obviously next turn we won't have the 50% support, which is fine. It's definitely something we're not too concerned about. So overall we're quite okay with what we're seeing so far, and then next turn we should get a good idea of their close to max capabilities, and we'll probably push it on from there. There's no real reason to hang out too long. We just kind of wanted to see a bit more of them than we saw in the previous event, especially since they had stacked their defense up so much and we never actually got to see the damn stat because we cleared the fight afterwards. So yeah, so far they're pretty good. Obviously they're not designed to be good in the first turn, so it's pointless saying, oh, they only had 60k defense in the first turn or 90k defense here. It's not really what they're made for, so there's really no point whatsoever. So really, I think this is going to give us a better idea of what their max capabilities are, which is where you're probably going to see them lie the most, because you're probably going to be using them in things like IDBH or LGEGTE or whatever it is. So yeah, 167k defense. Obviously we do now have the support from Dabura, But still, we are getting a good idea of their close to max abilities. That's very, very good from their part. 167k defense is a really solid, solid area to be in. I think they can still stack their defense a little bit more as well. I think they can stack it once more after this. We'll see. But I definitely think they can stack their defense a tiny bit more. Up to 2 million in terms of attack stat, which is obviously very good. So it hasn't taken too long. Yeah, they could definitely stack their defense. Yep, so now they are fully stacked. So we will be seeing their max defensive stat, which is a good sign. And yeah, they're doing 2 million attack damage, which is really good now. Obviously, they could improve that with link levels, but you're not going to get anyone that links with them really great. So there's no point saying, oh, well, with all their link levels max, because you can't do that. So it's not possible. Maxing out Sharing the Limit will give you a little bit more defense and attack, and Brutal Beatdown will give you a little bit more attack. So I guess you could do that for sure. But otherwise, definitely going to see the best we're going to see out of them. I think the rate at which they stack is fine. As long as you take them into the right events, they're not really, like a lot of these long form events don't start necessarily at the same level as ESBR or anything. So as long as you take them in and they're able to get a couple attacks off, or they're able to stack a couple bits of defense, they should be fine. They stack at a very decent rate. We've seen them go from 60,000 to 90,000, 100,000 after just 1 or 2 hits, which I think is fine. Like I said, especially if you're going to run them as a floater and grab 1 or 2 hits every couple turns, they should still be fine from a stacking perspective. So I think, overall it's not too much of an issue. Obviously here we're going to get a good idea of what their max, so we're sitting at 171,000, that is without support. So 171,000 defense without support is very, very good. It's very similar to a great Int Saiyaman after he supers against an extreme type enemy, so it's about fair. They won't take much damage from many events, and they'll be able to tank or at least not get you killed in pretty much any event, which is really good at that level. It's just enough, it's just borderline enough to not take too much damage from the full power Goku, although obviously there's a whole typing issue to take into fact there. But beyond that, I think they really are quite impressive. I think they do really well in long form events. They're definitely going to help you much more easily take on the IDBH challenge for the Earthlings category. And yeah, I think, from my perspective, there's nothing wrong with their build. I'm very happy with how they've performed here. Are they worth the orbs? Yes, if you want to complete the challenge, they will definitely make it a lot easier. Other than that, I don't know if they're worth the orbs. That's the only real thing, maybe barring the LGGTE mission for the corroded body and mind. Obviously that they're also quite useful on. The only issue is you can only really run them on maybe a Terrifying Conquerors for that, or like an all extreme team, but you'd need to have a very specific extreme team to get that to work. It is possible, but yeah, definitely something you could get done. But yeah, they definitely have their value. They are quite valuable as a unit. I just think they definitely are catered to one kind of content, whereas a unit like Great Saiyaman's probably suitable or suited for most content against extreme type enemies. These guys are designed specifically with 2 kinds of events in mind for the teams they're on. So I think that's more than fine. It's definitely a buff to the World Tournament category, definitely a buff to the Earthlings category, and definitely a buff for the Corrupted Body and Mind category. And with support of Boo, who's 50%, I do know, we are looking at a 211,000 defense, and when we see it past the Dokkan attack, 2.8 million in attack damage, which is good. Definitely a solid enough point to leave them on. Obviously you're not going to be able to have buffs or supporters on every rotation if you run them on their proper teams, but it's more than fine. 2 million attack stat, a 177,000 defense, I think it is definitely more than acceptable for the unit, for what they need to do. And the last thing left is to just look at how disappointing their link set is, because that's really the one big negative about this card. So yeah, let's take a look at those terrible links. So there's no real way to put this, but they definitely probably are up there for worst link set in the game. Luckily they are a free-to-play card, so it's not really too much of an issue, but they definitely are up there for worst link set in the game. Brutal Beatdown is alright, Shattering the Limit is definitely okay, and you could maybe get Cowards to activate, but Demonic Power you're never going to get to activate with them. Evil Autocrats, definitely not. Tough as Nails you could possibly get activated, but realistically you're probably not going to be able to get activated. And yeah, it's just Berserker, just never going to be activated again. Maybe if you link them with Oob, but then you're basically sacrificing every other link. So it's just a weird link set. And yeah, you know, it's okay for free-to-play cards to have this. Obviously they're a strange unit. They will definitely benefit when maybe a Yakon or something comes out that has a similar link set, because you know they're a Bubbly minion. Something like that might help. It's weird. Obviously Dbz is, you know, an actual demon, so I guess he doesn't link so well with them, but it really would have helped if like Dbz also had demonic power, which he doesn't. So yeah, I don't know, you know, it's a little bit wonky that, and it kind of throws him off. But in terms of free-to-play options, you know, that Raditz is an okay free-to-play option. 3 links that are on Terrifying Conquerors together. Same with this Golden Frieza and Sorbet. Not necessarily the greatest pairings that you'll want to run at any point in time, but definitely something you probably could do if you're short on team members, or you just need to fill up the slots, or maybe you're looking at just getting a boost or something. That being said, there are a couple more options that aren't free to play. You know, we do have the General Tao, who I have noted as being their best linking partner, which, you know, is as good as it gets. 3 links, so take it or leave it. And yeah, it's okay. Like I said, it's not really the end of the world, them only having 1 good linking partner. You can link them with the Boo and Babidi unit. They share 2 links. They share Shattering the Limit, and they share Brutal Beatdown. So for me, that's enough, and that's their best linking partner. So even though General Tao is technically their best linking partner, just link them with the Boo and Babidi. That's going to be the best point of call to go. They have the key link. They have another link. And yeah, I think that's definitely the best you're going to be able to do. So yeah, once we just break it down to Brutal Beatdown and Shattering the Limit, they do get a couple more options. They get Boo and Babdi, they get Evil Boo, they get a couple Ginyu Force members, which I guess you could link them with on Terrifying Conquerors. Definitely an option there. But yeah, basically they just pick up a couple more members, which is fine. Unfortunately, this Dbz does not have demonic power, which really would have helped out, would have made another 3-link partner, and that Dbz definitely needs some options as partners. But yeah, beyond that, I think that's pretty much everything that we need to cover. So as always, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments if you bothered to rainbow or get Yamu and Spopovich, and as always, I'll see you next time. But until then, stay safe, cheers, and bye!